Welcome to the Nerdtastic in 3D podcast.
It's Nerdtastic in 3D. Oh, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. Yes, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. It's Nerdtastic in 3D.
Bong.
Bong.
We have a gong that plays every time.
A gong or a bong?
Both.
It's ceremonial.
Yeah.
We just didn't.
The
We didn't know
bong-
if you guys were cool with bringing it here.
Exactly. So
Either one makes
The
a very
bong is
significant
mine.
sound. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nerdtastic in 3D, episode number 28.
Ocho.
28!
Like ESPN the Ocho.
Getting closer to that 30 mark. We always tell everybody that we have a very special show in store for you, but this time we actually do. Josh, you've invited some special friends to join us this time. Why don't you introduce your guests?
we do. We we're very privileged to be next to a brewery, a very great brewery, by the way, by the name of Golden Road, right down the street from our work facilities here, and they have been gracious enough to join us on our show to talk about some nerdy beer shit. Anyways, to my right, actually, we forgot to introduce ourselves. As always, I'm Josh Sabrat.
I'm Jason Carter.
I'm Sean Fennell.
I'm Jack Geckler, and let's also dive into the fact of we're not at our facility.
No,
We are not recording from Disney Studios this time.
Live from... Actually, it's not live.
La Cervecería del Oro Estrella.
we are live here from Golden Road Brewery, and with us we have Brewmaster
John Carpenter.
and co-founder and president.
Meg Gill.
And thank you guys for joining us. Yay!
Thanks for sitting in our tasting room.
This is
Tasting
awesome.
beers.
Yes, we just were privileged to a what was it? The penny tour you said?
Yeah, half a penny.
It was a five
peso- the peso tour.
5 pence
The Amero tour.
tour of this fantastic facility. And I guess Meg, would you like to kind of just run us down what you guys are all about here? Just kinda-
Yeah, sure. Well, let's see. We opened. What month are we in? We're in May. We're almost in June.
June's tomorrow.
So
June is tomorrow. Yeah.
Wow.
we started brewing beer in September of 2011, and we started with our Hefeweizen, which you guys are not currently drinking. You're drinking our Berliner Weiss.
But we have, and it's
But
delicious.
But you have
I think
had
3
our
of us have
Hefeweizen.
had it, yeah.
And we started brewing in September. We started selling and opened our doors in October of last year. We started canning our beers in January, Point the Way IPA and Golden Road Hefeweizen. And then that kind of brings us up to our current speed, and we are under a huge construction expansion project. Pretty much the first week we started selling cans, we sold out of our year one capacity. And so we're bringing in a brand new automated brew house from Germany and a 19 vessel tank farm also from Germany. So the tanks are sitting in customs, and that's why you guys had to hop around the front of the brewery so that that concrete still isn't dry. So we're brand new. We're expanding and growing as fast as we can possibly grow. Our mission is to service LA and to become Los Angeles's regional craft brewery.
How exactly are we servicing LA? I'm
I know how I plan to lubricate and serve Los Angeles beer culture. John, you
How
might have
important is
another.
the lubrication part?
Well, you and I have talked a lot about dry hand jobs, and you're the one that always throws me some lotion in the middle of the day. So,
You're making it sound like we have an inappropriate relationship.
sorry.
Sounds pretty appropriate.
Cut,
Exactly.
cut,
I am loving this, by the way, right now. This is fantastic.
But if it's your hand with her, it's like a Dutch rudder, right? And it's not. I mean, it's not really inappropriate at that point.
HR. Thank God we're too young for an HR department.
Young, but the place is huge. I just want to touch on that real fast. You guys own or lease 3 of the biggest warehouses over here by Glendale, and also the most colorful, mind you, in the area.
In so many ways.
Yeah. But no, this place is huge. I had no idea. First of all, Meg, I know when we walked in, I had no idea that you guys actually owned the 3 of them. I thought it was just the the first warehouse. But do you want to go into that at all? Like what each one of the warehouses are?
Yeah, for sure. And before we started brewing beer, and when we looked at the LA market, Tony and I kind of come from different backgrounds. We bring different things to the table. He's been involved in lots of businesses. He's been in a few different industries. He was in the music industry, and then he wanted to get into the beer business and got into the retail side. So
this is the other co-founder?
Yeah, this is the other co-founder, and I met him when he was before he had opened Tony's Darts Away in Burbank, and he's an extremely talented restaurateur and saw a huge demand for local beer in the LA market. Meanwhile, I was growing a brewery in San Francisco in the Bay Area, and when we started talking about different opportunities of working together, we found that the LA market was this huge, wide open, complex beer market that had huge demand, kind of proven to him through his bars and through me, through my travels as a national kind of sales manager at a couple companies. So we decided to kind of put everything into the LA market and to build something valuable for LA and craft beer over time. So we saw a lot of breweries who've kind of started in a little garage and grown and seen those growing pains. And I've been to a couple breweries and worked at a couple breweries who have moved buildings 3 times in 5 years. So we decided to find the space first that would allow us to grow to what we thought the market potential was in LA County. So that's our focus, is just servicing LA County and growing into these buildings as needed.
So I'm sorry, Josh,
I was going to say, it fascinates me because you guys are literally like, we have a humming noise, but it's all good. You guys literally have started pretty much the same time we have started doing this podcast. Like we are as old as you are, literally. Almost,
and clearly just as popular.
Yeah,
to the masses of Los Angeles and abroad.
We have about the same size HR department.
Gigantic listener base.
Perfect.
But what's amazed me is in that short amount of time, you guys are fucking everywhere. I mean, all
This
the bars.
is not true.
No,
We're
we
not
don't fuck
fucking
everywhere.
Well, that's clearly something you need to work on.
I'm just going off of what I've heard, and things that have been written down on some bathroom stalls and stuff like that. But
Bianca, don't listen to them.
But yes. But besides that, like I said, you guys have very much expanded yourselves very quickly, and it's very impressive.
So let's take a quick step back and actually go into one thing which people may or may not know, which is that the animation, entertainment, visual effects industry is driven really by one thing. Not money, alcohol. And that's really what keeps everybody going. It's what gets you through those long nights of working and working on weekends.
Well, everyone except Jason, but yes.
It's true. But so we really felt like to really encapsulate the whole culture of what we do and who we are, we couldn't do this show justice without having an episode dedicated to what we all love in the entertainment industry, and who better than our next door neighbors, which is why we wanted you guys on the show. So much, in fact, is the culture surrounded by alcohol that you will not actually find a major animation studio without something very, very special inside of it. Jack, you know where I'm going with this?
I can go right off the bat to say I'm sure there's more bars in the DreamWorks facilities than there are screening rooms and bathrooms.
That's accurate. But particularly, something that many people may find interesting is that Disney Feature Animation, Pixar Animation Studios, and DreamWorks Animation all have some type of high-tech hidden bar that's themed, hidden somewhere on campus. So at Feature Animation, they have this thing called the Workroom. Now, the Workroom has 2 beers on tap. It's basically a little storage closet, but the whole entire thing is automated. And you can go in and you can go create a PayPal account that's one person manages, and you can put money on this PayPal account, and it's wired to basically a card with a little CFID, is that what it's called?
RFID.
RFID, thank you. Reader, and there's a reader for it. And so you scan your ID, and it instantly pings your PayPal account and pulls money right off of your PayPal account. So it's entirely awesome automated thing. So no cash, no credit transactions, just all comes off PayPal. So very, very cool, very hidden. It's a part of a certain department.
Very
out there.
small.
Very small, but very tasteful.
Rotating kegs.
Yes.
I've seen it is a pretty cool spot though, considering the space.
Usually kegs that are not, I don't know what the correct term is, you guys can help me out, but they're usually more mainstream beers. They're not like micro brews or anything that are like really crafted. They're usually
Shit beer.
You know,
Is that an industry term?
That's 3 shits, everybody.
John, what's an industry term for not your beer?
Not, oh, Jesus. Well, they've pretty much all been my beers. I started with Anheuser-Busch for 5 years. So,
I take that back. Yeah, I'm sure they were all your beers then.
Yeah,
mass-produced beers.
There we go.
So then the next up on the list at Pixar Animation Studios, there's a little place called the Love Lounge, and if you've seen the special features of, I believe it's Bug's Life, you will see that there's one man who has an office, and you walk in this office, and it's just a normal office. He's standing up at his desk, and there's a small air vent behind him, just hidden into the wall. And you can actually pry the air vent open, and you'll see that there are little flickering red and green lights coming from outside the air vent. You open the air vent, you get on your hands and knees, and you crawl in, and there's a whole nother storage unit that was somehow never given a door in the Pixar building. Just never had a door. So there's this random room behind this guy's office that was connected by only a vent, and it has turned into the bar at
That
Pixar.
would suck getting hammered trying to crawl your ass back out of some hole. That's all I was thinking
Yes,
about.
you act like that's never happened.
No, that's my
It
point.
would suck getting
That's-
hammered.
well, that's
and
my
having to
point.
Crawl your ass out of some hole.
I was referring to people like myself who've been there, and it sucked. There's no other way to put that. There was no hole, and I was crawling on the ground.
As a physical reality and a metaphor, it's just so common.
And the last.
And the last, which
best.
had to say for last because I agree it is definitely the best. Credit goes to a Mr. Damon Crow, who basically co-founded the entire thing.
You
built
two
it all.
have been there as well?
No, we've never been there, and we would never provide beer to such an outrageous space.
I agree.
Actually, I've shown up there with like college friends, and I mean, I don't even know if we're allowed on site technically, but I've walked in before, and I'd been like, calling John to ask him, about when some beer was coming out or something, and I'm like, God damn it, John, where are you? Fuck it, I'm going to drink whiskey at DreamWorks. And walk in, and there's John with 5 of his friends. It's like there's more Golden Road employees over at DreamWorks in the bar than there are DreamWorks employees.
Once again, more
So yes,
bars per capita than employees.
We do know those bars pretty well.
So let's paint a little picture of the DreamWorks hidden room.
The only thing it's missing is a doorman.
It's true.
That's true.
It's very true.
We've recorded from there though too.
Yes, we have.
Oh, that is true. We actually have. Well done.
Don't
That
ask
was
what
our
number that was.
That was our holiday episode.
Oh yeah, during Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
God, that was rough.
Number 12 or something like that.
So imagine a cubicle farm. There's artists sitting in cubicles, and you're walking past these cubicles, and you see a long wall with bookshelves on the wall. Right? Just a shelf of bookshelves, books in it, all kinds of random stuff. Just looks like it's a part of the ambiance. And there's a very specific book called War and Peace, and you open the front cover, and there's a door handle there. And you swing open, you open the door handle, turn it, pull open the entire bookcase, which is actually, you find connected to a door, basically into Narnia. Right?
To say the least.
It's basically into another universe.
Yes,
And so
it's snowing there and everything.
it is, yeah. And there's, what are they called? I don't even remember what they're called. The half man, half goat.
The Goonies meets the best smoking lounge you've ever seen. Meets
English smoking
Pretty sure
lounge.
the most intermestering man in the world lives there in his off
Cocaine
time.
lounge
I'm
and
gonna
a
guess.
hunting lodge.
I'm gonna take a guess
All
that this
mashed
thing
together.
is probably close to like 600-800 square feet. Like it's a good size space. Now we should mention that the ceiling
6 foot high ceilings, maybe.
6 foot high ceilings on one side, 2 foot high ceilings on the other side.
In either case, it works for me.
Exactly.
You're
Right,
crawling
exactly
either
right.
way.
But as you walk in, you're coming into basically a bar, right? We have a wraparound seating that's got the what is that called? The vinyl
Leatherette.
Is that what it's called? Leatherette. It doesn't have the pleated seats.
It's not leather. It could be pleather.
But basically a bar room. And how many taps do they have now officially?
4, I believe.
How many beers on
No.
tap?
Well, it just
it
depends
changes.
who's
It's
there.
anywhere
Yeah,
from
yeah.
2 to 4, I think, depending on how many people are providing.
Awesome. And there's an entire refrigerator, like a what do you call it? A commercial grade refrigerator that's in there with all kinds of soda and miscellaneous things for people. But it's basically a bar, and it looks just like a bar, and it's got signage just like a bar. And then you turn to your right, and to your right you will see what can only be described as like my grandmother's living room, right? Like it's got all these antique crap all over the place, and then you just walk in there, you're like, this is awesome. Where are the mothballs? It basically just looks like there's a fake fireplace, there's an air conditioning unit in there, there's couches, there's a projector, basically just this lounge, but of all this old antique furniture.
Were you not supposed to actually use the fireplace?
No, you are. You can pee in it.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the toilet.
That's why I haven't.
Did you bring a Duraflame with you? Try to throw in there?
An Instalog.
I got this, guys. Oh shit, John! No, I'm pretty sure that room would go up instantly.
But it doesn't stop there.
No, that's not true because you always hit your fucking head on the fire, the sprinklers.
But it doesn't stop there. You keep on walking into a third room, which is basically like a hunting lodge.
It is now.
It's got a cutout of Indiana Jones in it, a bearskin rug, a talking animatronic deer head.
And the music kicks in instantly via a clapper.
It's on a clapper, yes, absolutely.
It's got a record player, cabinet record player, the old school style.
And a second...
Wine storage that you can slide, so it's another hidden room within the room.
And a second fake fireplace in that room. Basically, 3 distinct rooms within this giant space, all hidden behind a bookshelf.
Now, the interesting thing is when the hidden room was originally developed, you had to get into it by a 3-foot by 3-foot access panel. So for a good year, people were climbing in through this 3-foot by 3-foot access panel, getting hammered, and then crawling out the same way.
So it's basically similar to the Pixar thing. It's just they didn't want to stop
tunnel. No tunnel to get out of.
I love it. So I have a question for you guys, and I think for me this is the most important and deepest question of the evening, which is, in my opinion, any good.
It's gonna be so bad.
What?
It's gonna be the worst question.
Why are you preparing them for that? This is gold. Expect gold.
You set it up so well.
Expect
gold.
The longer the preamble, the worse the punchline.
So in my opinion, any great brewery brews their own root beer. Is that on your agenda?
No, not unless there's alcohol in it.
Good.
Way to bring it.
Good.
Jason.
Exactly.
I had to represent the children of the world.
And yourself.
To be honest, I've done it in the past, and when I was working at Dogfish, we made our own birch beer, not root beer, out there, and it's phenomenal. And we may do it in the future, but we'll see where we end up. Right now, we're focusing on making beer with alcohol.
I got to imagine that the profit margins for alcoholic-related beverages are slightly higher than soda.
Shit, man, if we sell those at the pub, margin's the same. It doesn't really matter. And we're just selling direct to people and peddling hooch.
So, John, with your, you were saying you're with Dogfish Head and with Anheuser. So, could you both just really quick, kind of go how you got to this place?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to start with my mom and dad hooking up, or?
Yeah, I mean,
if you're comfortable with that, I'd love to know everything. Positions,
we'd like,
room,
we'd like to know that.
We never got
plastic
into
on the
but
couch.
They've cut you short.
Crazy lady.
They've cut you short.
You never know. They did cut me short. I'm 5'7". That sucks. But
I was gonna say, thank God my parents cut me. Man, it would look weird otherwise.
And then it got awkward. No, from getting into this, I never really thought I was going to make beer for the rest of my life, and I met a really great friend of mine in college, and it was his whole life dream since he was 16 years old to be a brewer, and he moved from New York all the way to California after trying to be an accountant in college for 1 year and saying, fuck this. And so he dropped out and moved to California to get his residency just so he could go to UC Davis, the university that I ended up going to, and study making beer there. And, we became really good friends when I moved there, and he basically just drilled into me every day. How do you not want to make beer for the rest of your life? What could possibly be so wrong with you as a human being that you don't want to do this? And it turned out he was right. And so I ended up, 2 years into my college career, deciding to, add that on as the major I was focusing on. And, I graduated Davis with one of my degrees is in brewing. And, I worked for some small little breweries during internships and stuff like that. And then got really, really lucky and met some great people, and one of my mentors in school is Charlie Bamforth, a very influential professor in brewing. And he basically forced me, just like Scott forced me to study brewing, forced me to interview with Anheuser-Busch. And I was like, I was 21, 22 years old. I was like, screw that, man. I don't want to go work for Bud Light.
I was going to say, are they considered like the man? Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to go work for the man.
They're not considered the man. They are the
man.
and so I was like, I don't want to. And in his like funny British accent, he's just like, you will, or I won't pass you. I'm like, fuck. Okay. And so I went and sat in on a session and interviewed with them, and found this amazing tiny little brewery that they have in St. Louis that does all their research and development. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is, they have phenomenal bandwidth in all the different stuff that they do. So I got all excited about this little brewery. It's an 18-barrel brewery, so just a little bit larger than what we have here. And we brewed 1,100 brews a year there. And, a third of them, maybe a little bit less, maybe a quarter of them, were just random shit. Like, we made like carrot beers and garlic beers and like, then all the traditional stuff.
Was that the goal of that, pretty much that team, that group, to just put out
that was
whatever
about,
you guys wanted to experiment
Were
with?
you guys like an R&D?
It was
kind of?
exactly, that's what it was. They call
Awesome.
it the
Beer
Research
R&D.
Pilot Brewery.
Sweet.
And 2/3 or a little bit more of what we did in there was also just experimenting on every new crop of barley, every new crop of hops, all these kind of stuff. So we did raw materials testing on Budweiser, Bud Light, like all year round. And then, the other quarter was like, well, let's make some crazy shit. And, it's a bunch of 20-somethings, like out of college, that most of them have never done anything with beer. And I was just very lucky because I was so persistent. I was like, dude, if I'm going to work for Anheuser-Busch, I have to work for this like little spot. And so I went in there with a background in beer. No one else, everyone else was there, like, as these engineers that were promising in like the future of the company, that they were like, well, learn about beer here. And
That's like their starting point?
yeah, it kind of was. So I spent a year and a half there, and I was at that point, they try and get you out to manage one of the large breweries, and I'd gone out to they have a larger brewery in Baldwinsville, New York. And it was always kind of a joke. I was like, dude, well, the last place I want to be is upstate New York. Like, I'm from San Diego. Like, this is crazy. And
It gets cold there, right?
Oh. Yeah, like 7-foot snow drifts. But, and so I went up there and interviewed, and they kept asking me these questions. Like, well, why do you want to leave the pilot brewery and come up here and do this? I was like, it's not that I want to leave the pilot brewery. This is my dream job. I really love it there. And they were really sensitive because it is so remote and so cold. And so I went back, and they called up my director, and like, I'm not sure he's going to be happy up here. Like, he seems like he really loves being down there. And so one of the director of new products for Anheuser-Busch pulls me in. Actually, my brewmaster's office kicks her out of her office. Get out, we need to talk in here. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm in trouble now. And we sit down, and she's like, John, I like you a lot, but if you blow one more interview so you can stay here, you're done. Like, you cannot stay here forever. I was like, what'd I do? Like, you can't keep being so positive about this, like the pilot brewer. I'm like, but it's great here. And so we had this joke. I was like, well, at least Baldwinsville is the farthest you could send me away from home. And one of my bosses at the time was like, well, that's not true. Merrimack, New Hampshire is actually a little bit further away. And so I ended up going to Merrimack, New Hampshire. And so I went there and ran the brewing department there for just over 3 years. And then after that, I got to a point where it was amazing, and I learned more than I ever could at any other brewery being there. Because
What did they produce at that brewery? Like, what were you?
I think they had 11 different brands. We did a lot of the smaller products, like Bud American Ale was developed there. We did our organic beer there. We did the gluten-free beer there, and then all the standards: the Busch Light, Natural Light, Bud Light, Michelob. But we did that for a long time. It was a lot of fun, and it was super challenging. But after a couple of years, I'd gone through a lot of different things there. I'd been able to learn a lot about management, and also about doing reliability management and process engineering and those kind of things. And I just got to a point where it was a great, stable job. Pay was good, benefits were great, and I was really comfortable. And it scared the shit out of me, and because it wasn't what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and I was being like lulled into this sense of comfort there, and so I retired, which was great. I talked to my brewmaster there at the time, and I told him, hey, look, this isn't what I want to do the rest of my life, and it was really cool. We sat down for a beer and talked about it, and he was like, shit, I thought that's what we were going to talk about tonight. I was like, oh, okay, then we're on the same page. Exactly.
So this isn't going to be awkward or anything now.
This isn't good. And I'm like, well, what do you need? And so I ended up staying with them for another 4 months, I think, doing all my succession planning and putting training together. And then we announced my retirement, which was really... We thought amusing, but apparently the company didn't.
Were you like 23 at the time of retirement?
I
want to gauge the age, dude.
I was 27.
Okay, I was going to say.
And we thought it was really funny, and he put together a whole retirement party for me, and it did not go over well with anyone. We had this whole retirement party, we were taking the whole brewing department was getting off early, and we were going up to the Red Hook Brewery and just going to have a blast. And this isn't funny. Yeah, but it kind of is.
He's really leaving. You don't get it.
And so we did that, and my intention was to kind of take some time off and do a little soul searching and figure out where I wanted
Did you? I mean, was it to come back? You wanted to come back to California? You knew you wanted to get back? Or?
No, I wanted. It didn't matter where I was. I just wanted to, come back into being inspired with what I was doing every day, and craft brewing. And I'd been working the whole time I was there. I'd been either volunteering with small breweries and trying to help them build out their systems, or just working for little breweries on the side. I mean, not getting paid or anything, but there's so many small breweries anywhere you are, especially in New England, that they need a lot of help, whether it's just physical labor or whether it's technical help in how to make something a little more efficient, or make more interesting recipes, or just kind of shoot the shit and have fun. And those were things that kept me sane for the last 2 years I was working there. It was still being attached to brewing and still being inspired.
Is it because, I mean, I'm just curious of the process there at the main plant, but was it mostly because once that system gets going, there's just not a lot of alteration to what's going on, or, I mean, you just want a lot of creativity at that point, more or less managing?
Yes and no. I mean, the creativity there is more on the technical side, and it's thinking outside the box and doing stuff that's super nerdy and pushing the limits of engineering and figuring out how to do something just a tiny bit better. I mean, if you can save 1% of loss at a brewery that does 3.2 million barrels, and that's the 3.2 million is the smallest brewery in the Anheuser-Busch system. 1% of that is a huge number, and so that's a lot of what we focused on was, how to make things more efficient. And it was a lot of fun, and you learned a lot, but sometimes it's hard to get that inspired every day. It's really easy when you come into the craft community again to find a way to be inspired. It's it's kind of sad because it's one or the other, and then we're in this really nice renaissance right now in craft where people are blending that really inspiring, fun, creative on the artistic side with starting to learn a lot more about engineering and pushing the limits of what breweries can do on both the technical side and very creative, just fun side. And I really wanted to get back into being able to do both, not just one. And I had a lot of fun, and I like beer that tastes really good too. I mean, it's nice.
It helps.
Can't hurt.
So yeah, I left, and I didn't have anything planned, and that really freaked people out. They're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And like, this job pays really well. You have like 4 weeks paid vacation, like all this stuff, and it's like, yeah.
House in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I still have that. Thanks.
Come on.
Oh, the market didn't hold for you in New Hampshire.
But yeah, so I left, and I'd never been happier about leaving, and I was just kind of stoked and was talking to a lot of people, and I was set on finding a job that was more than just a job. And so I talked to a lot of different breweries, and I got real lucky that at that time Dogfish Head was going through a big transition with a new brewmaster that they were hiring, and they were trying to really fill out that technical end and really grow, because they'd been growing so massively just behind the creativity and genius of Sam and Brian Selders and the brewers that had been there for so long.
And I mean, I only learned of them. I learned of them a couple years ago, but because of that movie Beer Wars,
yeah,
that was what I learned about Dogfish Head.
Yeah, and wasn't it great that right on the heels of Beer Wars, they hired me to run their production for Anheuser-Busch?
Coincidentally.
But I think that's also a little bit of the beauty of like Sam, the owner of it, is he's a very humble person, and like he has his views, and he thinks what he does about the big brewing companies, but he's not blinded by that. And they were able to have this really strong reputation of screw you, Miller Coors, Anheuser-Busch, whatever, but they were still able to look at my resume and see me as a human being and a brewer, as opposed to the enemy.
Yeah.
And the first 2 months I was there, it was not easy to bridge that gap between everyone else there and me being the enemy, and but it after a month or two, it was a beautiful situation, and I really got another opportunity to learn so much and work so hard in a different direction, and also come in and have a lot of that technical responsibility there. And it was a blast, and I had so much fun there.
But seeing, I don't know how 100% accurate the movie is in terms of stats they give and everything, which I assume is pretty close and everything. Yeah. But how you were saying just a small percentage. Like I think Sam Adams in that thing, they were saying how just Anheuser's runoff, accidental spillage that just gets thrown away, is more than they produce in the entire year.
Well, it used to be before I came along. That shit doesn't happen. Exactly. There's no fucking loss.
No, none at all. But that number that to me just astonished me. And then, in that movie too, seeing how difficult it was for just new people to start out. And then so when I would say, you've worked in all over the country, you've traveled obviously for, this type of, work. I feel kind of fortunate being in a major metropolitan city like this, in a major big city, to where they have a lot of beers that you wouldn't normally probably have in a lot of places in, the country, and do you find that is pretty beneficial? Obviously, to you guys being in LA, do you think you would be this successful if you were in, Utah?
Which part of Utah?
Provo.
Provo.
Well, I guess I'll step into the LA market talk a bit. And I think John will agree because he's on board with building the LA market share, but quite different from how you describe LA. LA has been coined the wasteland of craft beer nationally.
Really?
And compared to San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, and San Diego, we're less than a third of the craft market share in those towns that are already small potatoes compared to the major brewers. So the LA market place has been a joke in general, and I moved from Boulder and started in Colorado in beer to San Francisco, the oldest, the craft beer kind of capital of the United States, and was basically laughed out of town to come to LA and start a brewery. So, not to get totally serious and totally negative on the town, but it's there are a few crusaders here who have been here for 10 to 15 years, the Lucky Baldwins of the world, but they're very few and far between. And in the last 2 to 3 years, there's been a influx of craft beer bars opening, and that's definitely helped. But it's still in the supermarket chains, in all the places where San Francisco and the Northwest are 15 to 20% of the market. We're in LA, we're under 5% of the market. So it's an insane number, and it's crazy how much Crown and Corona and Bud Light is sold here. It's the number one, if you take kind of the counties surrounding LA, beer market in the country, and it's the lowest on the totem pole craft beer market in the country. So we have a lot of work to do, and we take it very seriously, and that's why we've put everything into this brewery, and that's why we hired the best brewmaster in the world, we feel, for the project. And it's cool to hear John's story. He doesn't talk in depth about the AB days as much, in the craft beer space, but I think that we've benefited a lot from that, and from the creative side that that's always been in his brain, and that Dogfish helped cultivate. So
you were saying you started in Colorado. It is. So what's kind of how did you want to get into this beer stuff?
Well, it was interesting. Just like John, I never wanted to get into beer. I was a big beer drinker, but also like John, a lot of Natty Light in college. I actually have the women's keg stand record at Yale. Still have it. So, guys, watch out.
To set the record straight, I drank mostly hams, not Natty Light.
Oh, come on. There was some Natty Light in your day.
A little, but it was too expensive for me.
I found Milwaukee's Best to be a good substitute for that.
I killed Natty Light, though. Natty Ice was the good stuff.
God.
Yeah.
Shoot me.
And that was actually on my recruiting trip to Yale. So I guess I was a pretty good drinker before I really knew it, at like 16 years old. But I was recruited for swimming at Yale, and I never saw myself doing anything other than swimming and continuing to swim or do triathlon, and Olympic dreams were, that's all I dreamt about, and that's what I lived for. And I studied hard and ran some businesses through school to get me through school, but it wasn't a focus. It was just to provide so that I could swim as much as I possibly could. And I went to work for another Yale swimmer who was a professional triathlete in Boulder, Colorado, because I saw that I could help her make some money and, also continue on my obsessive kind of training binge. So I moved to Boulder, and, the first night in Boulder, I had a couple fat tires and a couple Dale's Pale Ale, and, little did I know how influential those beers and those companies would be on my growth as a person and career and all that. So I got to Boulder. I started an events management company with the woman I was working for, and Nicole DeBoom, and she was super inspiring to my kind of workout regime, but also knew how to have fun, and introduced me to the Cowboys over at Oscar Blues. And at that time, Dale's Pale Ale, the first craft beer in a can, was being filled on a 2-head filler in a barn in Lyons, Colorado, which is a one-stop sign farm. I don't even know if Dale was legally renting that barn, because no one is in it anymore. So that was just a couple months out of college. I met Dale, and within a few months, I had launched a company, and Dale was my main beer sponsor. We got to talking, and it was a short time later that I went to work for him with no title. On my card was megalomaniac, which I'm not exactly sure what it means. And
I'm awesome on the other side.
No, and Fitty Chick, which, if you guys has anyone here had 10 Fitty? It's
Yes.
I've heard of
So-
it. I don't think I've had
Does
it.
anyone know what? You guys said you like stouts.
I've had,
So-
yeah.
Have you had it here?
Yeah, we've had it here for sure.
Then that's where that's where I thought I'd had it. I'd
Yeah.
seen it before because I made Sean.
Yes,
You were there
yes,
because
I
I
have
called you
had
out
it.
and I go,
Yes,
dude, you
I
got to
have
get
had
10 just for the name alone. You got to drink it.
So it's you probably think 1050 is like, it's around 10% alcohol, so people kind of assume that has to do with the name, and it's an imperial stout that's in a 12-ounce can, and that's the whole deal. Is that beer is better in a can? It's preserved, fresher. It's easier to travel, easier to take outdoors.
Is that why all of your stuff is cans?
The reason our beer is cans is because of the fresh factor, and us servicing a local market and trying to get the beer to the market in a fresh way, and also the fact that there wasn't a Southern California craft beer in a can. We could provide that as kind of the outdoor solution to good beer. So there are a lot of reasons, but clearly my inspiration working at Oscar Blues and drinking a lot of 1050. So anyway, the other line on my business card was Fitty Chick, and 1050, for those of you who don't know, means fuck industry, do it yourself. So never would
like
have
it.
thought 5 years later I'd be working with the man over here.
I love
But,
it.
That's
sure he does.
I think
Exactly.
It depends how I was looking at it.
Did you guys get into the part of the story where you guys kind of started to hook up and like the kind of creation of like the staff? And...
I can skip through my history because honestly, like I fell into it like John, but mine isn't as nerdy and technical. It's more marketing, sales, and distribution.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like,
passion driven.
oh shit,
Well,
you got a
that's the thing I was
sick
gonna
business
say,
card.
too,
You're
is like,
hired.
yeah, it's just like you're very young looking. You look like you're. It's just kind of like crazy.
Like a Bud Light
You're
promo girl?
16. You're 16,
I hear that
right? You're
sometimes.
16,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
16. I mean, has it been tough being a woman like doing this?
Yeah,
you don't
for
see,
sure,
You don't see
you know-
very many women
young entrepreneurial women.
in brewing.
in beer,
Dipshit.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a very rare thing, and it's an old boys network. There isn't a lot of change, especially on the distributor and retailer side, and I think for the first 3 or 4 years, it was a big like weakness, and so I became an obsessive, just like I was in swimming training. Kind of trained my mind to beer and the business of beer and learning it, and so I became almost kind of self-conscious and defensive of how young I was, and that I was like the only young female and doing what I was doing, and so I think I kind of overcompensated for a while, and now it's it's pretty. It treats me pretty nice that I can sit in a boardroom with 15 men and kind of get what I need done in the meeting. So
That's the thing, because like I mean,
He's got a little attitude
no,
to
that's-
it.
yeah,
You kinda scare me, that's all I'm saying,
You
man.
learn how to survive for sure in that instance. And I used to be so, when I was 22, 23, and Dale would drag me into meetings, and they'd be like, "Oh, what are you, like a fucking Bud Light girl? Like, what are you gonna give me some fucking beads? Like, what, And I would just like, fuck, like my skin would just, I would be in a rage, and Dale would step up for me the first couple times it happened and be like, you know what, in 5 years she's gonna be your fucking boss, so I'd watch out. And that was kind of my first confidence in the beer business was Dale, the owner of Oscar Blues, telling me and giving me that like confidence of,
That's awesome.
know your shit, step up to these guys, and watch out. And so that's John has a similar story of a friend who got him into the business, and it's interesting just like how impactful one person can be on bringing you to where you are. And,
yeah, we've talked about that too on the show. It's being in our industry too, and I only ask that just because our industry is very male heavily driven. Out of our company, there's only each department has maybe like 2 women out of a team of like 30. And especially if they're attractive, it's just really even worse because then they're just always kind of gawked at and looked at and everything. And I'm sure it gets like we talked to another friend where we asked, do you get hit on all the time because you're around this? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, and it gets annoying. It gets, it sucks. And I have another woman too that she goes, she won't date anybody or anything near, our work because she wants to actually be taken seriously. And it's just like, being in this same type of thing where, it's very heavily male driven and stuff like that. It was just kind of one of those things, just if you kind of struggle with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the same breath, I'm going to say that it's helped me a lot too. These distributor types and, the buyer at Ralph's or Vaughn's or whatever, they almost are like expecting less out of me. And then when I have kind of, Tony calls it the goods to back it up, then they give me almost more credit than's due because they're expecting this kind of young, flaky blonde girl to come in and not know the difference between a pale ale and an IPA and all that. Yeah. So
and then like you said, your friend, like, and with us too, we all have kind of really, have gotten in because, we knew somebody and they took a chance on us and like then helped guide us. And really we always say first it's who you know, then it's what you know, because if you get somebody to, back you up, you got to be able to fucking, produce what this person is actually,
Yeah, I think we would all argue that for every single one of us that's working professionally at one of the animation studios, there's 19,000 other people more talented than each one of us that doesn't 100%. Have that job.
I don't know any of them. You're not getting my job if you're listening.
That's awesome. Sorry, hit the part.
So back to John. And how we met. We met through a mutual friend at a conference in early 2011, the Craft Brewers Conference. And, we were out with a couple different breweries at an event in San Francisco. And I had just quit my job. I was working at Speakeasy, a local brewery in San Francisco. And just put in my notice to be able to start this thing with Tony. And was just kind of on the hunt for brewers and was talking to every brewer at the show about not necessarily like, will you quit your job at Dogfish Head, Sierra Nevada, Firestone, whatever, it was, do you know any guys who may be a good fit for a startup? And to be honest, when John and I met, I heard the AB, history. And I thought that there was just no way in hell that this guy would ever come to LA and work for a startup. And I just kind of told him my story and Tony's story and what we thought of the LA market and what the challenges were, but what the huge upside was if we could break into the market and what kind of beers we were looking at, to do that with. And he said, I love your passion and I love your excitement and I'm so happy with where I am. But I would just love to help you, find the right brewer. And so we talked for a few months, just on a friendly basis. Wasn't paying him anything, just a bunch of smiles on the other end of the phone. And it was late one night in Colorado. I was interviewing some brewers through some old connections I had there, and he said, "Yeah, that guy's like really creative, like could totally work out, but the engineering side isn't as strong as it could be." And I just said, man, fuck it. I just gotta say it. You're the only man for this job. Like, that's it. And the phone just went kind of dead. And I'll let John kind of chime in from here, maybe on why he did it. But
I thought maybe the phone just died. Real John, is that you were gonna say? Like literally, I lost cell signal. But it was very dramatic to her, though.
It's AT&T every time. Drops your calls.
Yeah, more or less. No, it was just awkward because that had never been anything we had talked about, and it was like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or something, and I was actually sitting in a conference room at the brewery because I was still there. We had just we were in the middle of redesigning our brewing systems, and so I was there for like 18 hours a day every day, and I was just kind of like, oh no, and it's just like this no, and I was like, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Like, this is inappropriate for so many reasons. And, like, I'm still at work right now. She's like, what the fuck are you doing at work? It's like 10 o'clock going.
Did you assume like he was somewhere else or something?
Yeah, but we're at work and it's 9:52, so there you
But
go
it was
again.
just, it was funny. I was like, my brain's dead right now. Like, let's just talk some other time. And I think stayed there for like the rest of the night too. And we talked a little bit later, and it was the same kind of thing. I was like, it's really flattering, I appreciate it, but I have a great job here, I love what I do, and like, let's keep working on getting this project moving for you. And then she was pretty persistent, and she was out on the East Coast like a week later or something. It was, like, drove up from Virginia and was like, hey, let me take you to dinner and talk about the project. I'm like, fuck. Yeah, okay.
And at this point, he knows. There's no more smiles. It's like, come on now.
Yeah,
And we just kind of went through the whole thing, and she showed me the places, and we talked a little bit more, and I was like, you know what, it's worth at least talking about. And so I flew out here, and I saw the whole thing and met with her and Tony, and we talked a lot about it. And it was just there's so much opportunity and excitement, and there's so much good that we can do with this market. And I was just kind of like, fuck it, it's another stupid thing, like leaving a really solid, great paying job in Anheuser-Busch to have nothing. It's like, yeah, let's just do something rash again. And so, I got on a plane and I flew back and sat down with Sam the next morning at Dogfish and was like, look, I think I'm going to move back to California and like try and, start this new brewery up. And that was a tough conversation, but it was made so much tougher because the way he responded was just like, it was like so real and genuine. It was just kind of like, wow, that sounds really cool. Like, what can we do to keep you here? I was like, he's like, have you already made your mind up? Is this something you really want to do? Like, yeah, I think so. And like, it's pretty much, I'm pretty sure. And he's like, well, fuck it, man. That's awesome. And I was like, oh man, you're not making this any easier.
Exactly.
You're supposed to
It's like when
yell
you
at me.
pissed off your parents and like they just gave you like the silent like disappointment look. It's like, no, yell at me. I want you to yell at me. It's just like, come on. It's just like, no, the silent treatment is like, oh shit.
Disappointed in you, Josh.
And that's totally what it was, but that's just like who he is and the culture that he's brought to that company. And I mean, I lived 2 blocks away from him, and I would like have dinner with him and his family, and just like it was like, breaking up with your girlfriend or something.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like,
Damn, Meg, you must have been sincerely persistent.
but it was really good. And so we talked about it, and I didn't have as much time as I did with AB because I actually had something I was doing as opposed to being a bum for a while. And so I stayed with them for another 7 weeks, and went from 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, to like 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, just trying to make sure we got as much done as we could. And then took off from there. And I think my official last day was like a Friday. I ran a festival for him on Saturday, then worked at the pub for free for like 2 or 3 days, and then was like violently ill because I hadn't slept for a long time. Like, so I didn't even like pack my shit. Like, I tried to really hard, but then I was sleeping and like waking up for 2 hours and just like dropping shit in a box. And then all of a sudden the truck was there, and I had like just a couple big boxes because I was like, I'm never gonna get this packed. So I'm just like sweeping shit into these big boxes, and taping them and throwing them on there. And I got my stuff here, and it's like half broken. I was like, whatever. But I flew out the next day and started here, and we hit the ground running, and we tried to make this into a brewery as fast as we could, but doing it the right way. And it's been fucking crazy ever since.
Were you happy to be back in California?
Yeah, it's really good. This is my home. As much as LA is not where I'm from San Diego. It's still I feel much more close to home here. And there have been a lot of times where I've felt like this really was home, and so it's really good to be back in Southern California and to be able to do something I think that's kind of meaningful here, and is irrelevant as making beer is. I think it provides a lot to people, and it provides a sense of community, and you can do a lot of good stuff with it. And so,
speaking of the community aspect, was it the initial plan right off the bat when you guys got the space to have the bar scene in the front like that? I mean, because it wasn't just, hey, we're just going to brew beer and have a space to brew beer, or was it right up front to be like, hey, we want to bring a place that we could try new beers, serve our beers, serve some crazy food, and just have that kind of community atmosphere here?
Yeah, absolutely. And this project moved a lot quicker than we anticipated, and a lot of people are kind of amazed by how quickly it's kind of come up and gained a lot of popularity, especially at the pub. And we've just had a lot of factors for us to get us there. And Tony and I had literally just started looking at LA and weren't exactly even sure if we were going to build from scratch, if we were going to just find a box of a warehouse. And Tony was across the street looking at a box of a warehouse space, and I was in San Francisco still, and he saw these buildings, didn't even know if they were for lease or not, and told me to get on the next flight. And I came down here, and we both just said, those are the buildings, whatever we have to do, to convince this guy to long-term lease them to us, we're going to do. And we saw the potential of a retail space for many reasons. First and foremost, as kind of a tasting platform for the local community to come and try your beers, and not just our beers and new beers for the brewers to try out, but also other people's beers to kind of show our support of craft beer in general. And these are the styles, and these are the breweries that we respect, and we'd like you to try them. And so that's kind of what our pub is about. The food is kind of to be paired with the beer in a little bit of a healthier way was the concept. We've been traveling and drinking beer for a long time, and felt like we wanted to kind of show a little bit more of a healthy lifestyle here, especially eating here 3 times a day. So we did know that we would have a retail component. It's expanded to something larger than we expected, like most of the brewery, and we're adding on a beer garden for the summer. Hopefully that will be licensed by the end of July, early August. That'll add another couple hundred seats, and then we're working on an event space after that, probably in the fall, that'll be open, so you guys can come rent it out for this or any other kind of animation
fun stuff.
Yeah.
So have you experienced any benefit in being as close to the studios as you are in this location?
Other than being on this amazing show right now?
Exactly.
Is that a trick question?
It's actually, it has.
I've met a ton of really good-looking nerds.
There's a couple.
It's been really good for us for a lot of reasons. Certainly DreamWorks, but a couple of the others too have been super supportive of us, and there have been these small groups.
Yes, that is the train.
Of
Cheers.
people that have really allowed us to thrive as a pub, and that's one of the things that allows us to continue to build the brewery too. As most small breweries are founded and start to grow, they have a very, very difficult time even coming close to making ends meet, because it's so difficult with the 3-tier system in the United States, and California's not the easiest either, to really make any sort of legitimate revenue on your beer until you get to a certain volume. And so having the studios here and having a lot of this sense of community coming in has been unimaginably helpful for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've always been fascinated. Actually, even at DreamWorks, the number of people vested in their own brewing and into brewing, like that sort of, Josh Richards, who works in me and Sean's department, just blew my mind with the amount of how much he was into it and his passion for it. And he's always spoke very highly of you guys. And I even remember the first time he brought you guys into the hidden room, which had mostly just been a lot of his.
Yeah, a lot of his brews with his
brews.
buddy who moved up to PDI. But he's one of the guys that got me kind of excited again about beer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that brings me to an interesting question that I had for you guys. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask it.
Nope. See ya.
Nope.
No, by all means, bring it on.
Bringing up the nerds, and Josh is very much one of them on the beer side. Will you tell me what you think the difference is between a beer nerd and a beer geek? Because I think that John and I have an idea, but
I'm actually, just because John's so adamant about answering this question, I can just see it on his face.
Oh, come on!
I'm actually very curious.
Guys.
We're gonna bat it off.
Honestly, I'm curious on what I think. What it is I'm curious what the difference is. Because I can say Josh is definitely a beer nerd. I mean, he's vested, but more I think on the lines of maybe where John's at, as far as, I don't know, either the tech or the science behind it. I can see that. Maybe the geeks is more of the guy who goes around and being like, you'll never guess what I tasted in the tasting room at Golden Road last night.
Dude,
or is that just a douchebag? Or is that just a douchebag? Okay,
that's what we're getting to.
Okay, that's a douchebag. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, so when you asked the studio question, and it reminds me of that difference. And we've seen just this huge outpouring of beer nerds at our pub. People who care and love and cherish and want to learn more and study beer, and in a very non-pretentious way. You guys, you're in jeans and shorts and tennis shoes, and that's like how we want our pub to be. We want it to be like this learning place for craft beer, and not a pretentious kind of geek place as we talk about it. And a lot of the beer geek culture that that I get sick of personally, and especially when I travel, is going to get a $12 fucking double IPA, and it's an amazing local double IPA, and some fucking geek beside you is pouring it out going, where's the Pliny? And you're like, there are great beers out there in every city, and we want to provide a way to kind of challenge the nerds and not necessarily cater to the geeks. So
it's interesting you say that. Slight observation that I think that concept between nerd and geek is something that can apply sort of to passion and to a lot of different things. I think you'll meet a lot of different people in the entertainment industry that are nerdy and passionate about what we do for a living and what we are. Very similar to how I think you guys sound very, very passionate about your business and ultimately your product. And the thing that's most interesting about passion is that it's contagious. It's very, very contagious. I don't drink, but listening to you talk about it, I'm passionate about it for you. And I think that's a really, really interesting thing. And that's something that you don't get with geeks in any type of industry. You're going to get a geek is somebody who's going to turn it into something that is passionless. They're looking for something where there's really no heart to it. And I like that you keep bringing up the sense of community, because I know that we've all kind of become really close friends through random haphazard circumstances and created this really, really fun atmosphere between us, because we have this thing in common, because we have this sense of community, and we share that common passion. But there are people that everybody works with, or that everybody comes in contact with in your related fields, that just, they put that bad taste in your mouth. It's just kind of like, oh, you're one of those guys, and absolutely.
I'm like biting my tongue just thinking about the people that.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody has those. And I definitely will say, Meg, I love that you use the word pretentious, because that is the opposite of, in my impression, the opposite of this place. You walk through here, it's cool, it's laid back, I feel comfortable here. I definitely can see that you guys are going to create a sense of community, and in related to that, I don't know how you guys feel about the city of Glendale, but where you're actually located with the kind of businesses that are around you, I do think it's really interesting, and you're going to foster more and more community as you guys grow. It's going to be really interesting for you.
Yeah, that's amazing, and thank you for saying that. And I mean, just yesterday we saw a huge outpouring from the community. We had some issues with our licensing from the city of LA, and believe it or not, we're actually in the city of LA, even though the other about 25 feet over is Glendale.
Oh, really?
Is that a train tracks thing?
Yeah, that's a train tracks thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
We're on the other side of the tracks here, but
The better side of the track.
Okay, there you go.
well, so Glendale, Burbank, we're actually in Atwater Village, so just across the street from us on San Fernando Road, I explained to a couple neighbors just who were out in the street watching these cement trucks come in that we're having some issues, and we had 19 almost all 30-foot vessels coming in, and because of the city permit hassles we've been through, we're kind of going to be fucked on about 10 of the tanks. We're not sure what to do with. We can build around, but it's going to be a huge expense, and we're not sure the timeline. And our neighbor across the street from us, who's a sound studio guy called Four Wall, his name's Jim, and he's like, look, like, we're just moving in. We have a football field in the back. Why don't you just store the tanks back there as long as you want? And I'm like, dude, what can I pay you for that space? Like, what can we do? And he's like, oh, what kind of beer do you make?
It's universal money.
And I gave the guy a 6-pack. I'm trying to give him a case, and he's like, oh no, that's too much. I'll never drink that much. I'm like, dude, 6 beers for like months of a football field of rental space in LA. Come on. So we love it here, and we couldn't be happier with our neighbors.
That's awesome.
I was gonna go. Just because I gotta hear, because you're so adamant about that, like with the face with the geek and nerd thing. One thing I'm curious about though is your take, having traveled a lot and been to a lot of these different cities, and I guess Meg, this would go to you too. Is what cities have the worst just amount of geeks, like people who are just pretentious as fuck about beer, and it can overshadow the scene.
I don't know. I hate this question because I feel very fortunate to do what I do, and I'm, regardless of how pretentious and how off-putting some people can be, whether you're a nerd, a geek, anything, if you're supporting the beer community in one way or another, I appreciate that people do that. So I really don't like getting into this question, and I don't like answering it, and I feel uncomfortable just talking about it because I'm really
all beer drinkers are good beer drinkers.
I mean, maybe they are, maybe they're not, but
ultimately they're all supporting you and your passion.
Absolutely, and without them, I couldn't do what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah,
totally respect that.
No, that's good. I'm gonna say LA is full of a bunch of pretentious pricks and anything. So that's why I could throw that out there. That was when I moved here in 2003 from Florida. I just couldn't get over that. Yeah. And I still can't about anything, about what I do for a living, about people who work next to me sometimes and what they do.
When I lived up north, San Francisco was kind of like that too. It was pretty. I don't know.
But Meg, you seemed a little passionate, so I'm sure there's. I'm sure there's a couple. You don't have to name names, but I'm sure there's a couple cities you've been to that they have certain points of view that are tougher than others.
It rhymes with Schmortland.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm overly kind of aggressive about the question because there was so much negativity around my leaving San Francisco that LA would never be this town, and there's so much geekdom in the Bay Area.
I mean, why do you guys feel that they feel that way about LA? Like, why do you think LA has such a stigma?
Because it's true.
Just the amount of pretentiousness here is just too much.
If you take your industry, I'm sure has this data collection services, but it's you look at IRI, which is grocery store data, which is where 80% of the beer is sold. LA just stands out as a sore thumb of just shitty beer sales. So it's just it's a huge
so the numbers Corona, alone tell you that it's just not a good move.
It's just not a good move, and so I think that I have a little bit of fire up my ass, something to prove, to say like I left, like John, a great job, the oldest craft beer market in the country, to come to, what people call the wasteland of craft beer. And so I think that I get a little bit turned off by the geekdom, and I want more nerds around and people who aren't pretentious and who come into beer, whatever their knowledge base is. And that's why I love seeing the walks of life who come into the pub. It's not just studio guys. It is a lot of studio guys, but it's a lot of the local Glendale community, and there's families in. I mean, you come in on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and there are more tables with kids at the tables than there are, not. And those people aren't the guys who are up all night on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, because they have families and they don't have time, and they have full-time jobs, and they're just now learning about craft beer. And those are the people that I think that I get, off on is touching them and making, bringing them into our little segment here.
Well, I know we're happy that you guys decided to bring it here and take the leap into LA, the LA market. And I don't know, to me, and I'm happy as well to Tony for starting Tony Darts. Love that place. I know me and Sean, we've been there many times.
Thank you to Josh for introducing us
to fall in love with that place. Yeah.
So we do need to start to bring the show to a little bit of a close, but I think there's a couple of things we need to hit first, which first is one of the main ingredients of beer is water, right? So how massive is the water bill for this place?
You know what? The water bill is not terrible. What's always really complicated is the water output from a brewery. And so your discharge is always this thing that, like, since before I was ever interested in starting this project, this is one of the things that I talked to Meg about. It was like, check on your wastewater permits. Like, how much water can you put down? Like, how much? And I've been paranoid about it, and I'm still paranoid about it every day, because it's very difficult to reduce your water consumption as a manufacturing facility, and especially as a beer manufacturing facility. So we do everything we can to reduce the total amount of water that we can while still maintaining a really sanitary process. And it's right now we're still way under where it's gonna be really expensive, and we pay kind of the same thing no matter what. But once
there's a threshold.
Yeah, once we bring this large brewery in here, it's gonna be a tightrope we'll walk the whole time. And we're going to have to find ways to make sure that we use less and less water. I mean, basically our output is the same as our input, but it costs a hell of a lot more to sewer water than it does to bring it in.
For sure.
And so, but one of the things that a lot of breweries end up having to do is putting in wastewater treatment facilities in-house. Unfortunately, we're in a pretty industrial area, and our wastewater is pretty damn clean. We're a brewery, first and foremost. So we'll get to a point where we have to consider how we're going to deal with it, and that's the scary part. What comes in?
Flush less toilets.
Yeah, exactly.
Cut every corner.
If it's yellow, let it mellow.
You know it. So it's an interesting.
I had never heard that before. That's very interesting.
So something we try to ask of everybody we have on the show, and by that I mean this is the first time we're asking it on this show. What is your favorite movie?
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
Yes.
That's what we do. Why not?
That's what we do.
Are we inside the actor studio now?
Meg, I'm putting you on the
I'm
spot.
up first.
Let's start with you.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's just the Kill Bills.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
Sweet.
Love it. John?
Cool Hand Luke.
Okay. I like it. Reaching back a few years. I like it. Very, very cool.
Did we even have this cover?
No, we've never answered
I don't
this
even think
question.
we've even
Total
fucking answered
bullshit
that.
question.
Yeah.
We'll keep it going then. It just can't be two people. We've
Yeah,
got
right.
6 people at the table here.
Jack?
You're up, Jack.
Blade Runner. Don't judge me.
That was not a judgeful face. That was a thinking
Your eyes
about my own answer.
screamed. Your eyes screamed.
It's in your eyes.
Sean Fennell.
I'm gonna go 7. I love that movie.
Josh?
Terminator 2.
Oh, that's good. So I feel a little bit horrible for saying this because I have a daughter now, but for many, many years it was American Beauty. It sounds odd, but that movie did more for like me as a person, like spiritual, like understanding of the world than like anything.
It's my top 5.
But I feel a little bit
Why?
dirty about saying that nowadays that I have a daughter. So
Is it Kevin Spacey?
As long as she's not like laying in roses or anything, dude, you're good, man. What do you?
she's 16 months. I think we got some time. Yeah, so I would say probably, if not that, I'm a really, honestly, a gigantic fan of Inception. I love that movie.
Cool.
I thought you were gonna go
Pirates of the
Because my-
Caribbean, number one.
I thought you were gonna go like American
Shrek
Tail.
Journey-
Bible goes west.
Journey to the center of the earth.
Elmo Visits New York. Definitely a big winner.
Mostly just the cover of The Little Mermaid.
Pretty much.
Nothing on the inside whatsoever.
All right, well then let's keep this going. Worst movie. Meg?
Or, like the movie
That
you
you've
hate
seen.
the
No,
most,
no, that
or
you've
your
seen.
guilty pleasure?
No, that you've seen.
Oh,
That,
okay.
no, like
That
the
you've
worst
seen.
movie you've
Worst
seen.
movie
Like
I've
you'd rather
Jesus.
you'd rather slit your wrists than watch it again.
That is a...
You've all seen bad
Beer
movies.
Wars.
Worst movie.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm going to go there.
All right.
Dude, this is I don't know. It's not something I think about.
Yeah,
That's what's good.
Like,
Like,
That's the purpose of our show.
but we've all seen something shitty. Either maybe you didn't leave, but you wanted to leave the theater, or you were at home and gone like, screw this shit, and turned it or something else.
I'll tell you something that I saw recently that I thought was like amazing, and I also had like just didn't give a shit about the movie at all. It was is it Wrath of the Titans was like the most visually impressive like 3D thing ever, and we sat there and watched it and we're like, this is fucking crazy. Do you remember what happened in the movie? No, that fucking sucked, but it was fucking awesome. I've talked about that movie a couple times, and I
So it goes either way. You talk about it, but it's maybe not always
It's
the
the
best.
best looking worst movie you will ever see.
I still don't remember what the fuck happened in the movie, but I remember being like, shit. That
I
hell
just remember
came out
being
at me.
exhausted after that movie finished.
Yeah. So I'll go with that for right now, but I'll think about this one.
Jackson?
It's so funny. I was thinking about usually my go-to is I got dragged to the Spice Girls movie back in the day, and I walked out. But it recently was the Meryl Streep. What was it? Julia Child movie that she was Julia Child. What was it called?
Yes. Letters to
Every
Julia.
time she talked, my molar, the filling in one of my molars started to just
Vibrate?
do something. And that's now up there as the worst thing ever put onto film, just for her talking.
Tell me how you really feel.
Exactly, dude. All like 6'5" of her. Oh, it was horrible.
Dear God, I am so good at forgetting shit that I hate that I'm.
That's a
having
great
really
quality to have in life, by the way.
time
That's an incredible
of
quality,
remembering. Fuck, what's that Freddy Got Fingered movie or whatever? I think I'm probably gonna have to go with that.
Yes, that is a movie. I'm going to choose a little Elijah Wood movie from back in the day called North,
Oh, yeah, that was bad.
where
I remember that movie.
this movie was like this crazy kind of journey of this kid, and I was like super into it, and I was like, all right, this is kind of fun. It's nutty, and then the kid wakes up from a dream. Credits roll.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't
Way to
watch
ruin
Lost.
Way to ruin the worst movie.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I was on point. I would have to say the movie Blood Rain.
Damn it, Josh.
I know.
Another-
About that
you made
before.
me watch it because it was so bad.
That movie, if you ever watch it, you will just like be going like, "Are you shitting me?"
But it's
Are
funny
you
bad.
kidding me?
It's like funny bad. You
No,
watch
it's
it 'cause
not
you-
even. It's not
It
even.
is
Snakes
funny
on a
bad.
plane. Snakes on a plane, funny
but they're
bad.
no.
No.
He's
They're
trying to
Squid
be
versus
serious.
Mega Octopus.
They're trying.
They're trying to be serious, but
Really
it's just
trying.
funny as hell.
But it's just like you're watching it, going like.
at the end of the
I mean,
movie.
porn has better acting.
He does a montage of all the worst moments, and I'm not shitting you. At the very end of the movie, it's a montage clip of all the worst moments in the film.
Yeah.
So bad.
Oh, God, it was just. Yeah, that's mine.
So,
On the worst shit, we can wrap that up.
we like to wrap up with a little slight recap of our newly added segment of the show, which is our weekly challenge. For John and Meg, you don't know about this, but we actually challenge ourselves once a week to do something. Something big, something small, it doesn't matter, just try something different. And each of us kind of tries to come up with a little challenge. And last week, and we also award ourselves points which are meaningless at the moment, but will mean something eventually.
Got some nerd status to it.
But Sean, why don't you go ahead and
There's
explain?
nothing geek about what we're about to talk about at all.
Why don't you go ahead
all
and talk a little bit about your challenge from
Well,
last week?
our challenge is probably right up your guys' alley because it's what you do. It's craft. So essentially what I came up with last week was in our jobs and in this era, it's a very digital era. Everyone's on their phones, everyone's on their computers, everyone's doing things that way. So I brought the challenge of craft something with your hands, make something physical. The only thing that you can use that's digital is a calculator. And to start off with, my craft was together with my boys, my wife bought them some Super Mario figurines because they fucking love that game to death. And we built a real-life Super Mario Brothers level in our house with like the flag that goes up and down and stuff, and we walked them through the level, and it was a lot of fun, and spent just 4 hours one night just fucking playing real-life Super Mario Brothers. It was a blast.
That's awesome. Jack?
Shit, you can't go to like Jay. You don't want to go into it first or something. I don't want to follow that.
Fair enough.
I mean, I could though. I've had an obsession that has never left me, and that's Legos. I wanted to be an architect in school originally. Didn't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now either. And any chance I get, and now that I have a child, it makes it just a great excuse to walk down that aisle. So this week I walked down the aisle and said, "Screw this shit! I'm crafting some Star Wars Lego goodness." And I sat and talked my way into a set and made it into the shopping cart, and brought it home and got my build on again with little miniature R2 and see-through. I know I'm totally geeking.
No, I like it.
Nerding
I
out
like
right
it. I'm
now.
actually not that far behind you. So, Sean, we'll definitely award you 20 points. Jack, we'll award you 20 points. I'm not far behind you in that my daughter has this set of like giant blocks that
I
stick
did see
together.
what you crafted though. I did see this.
I
this
built
weekend.
a giraffe with moose antlers that I nicknamed Moose Raff, and that's what I built. So I'm awarding myself 10 points for that.
I saw the beast. It was something.
Joshua.
I'm going to go ahead and say I was literally like every day after the podcast, I just drank every day since today.
So you created cirrhosis.
I pretty much, I award myself no points. I gotta have mercy on my soul because I have just been basically drunk for the past week. So I did not complete this challenge. I'm sorry. I don't get any points.
Oh goodness! And the challenge this week, I think, goes to Josh
Oh shit! It's me. Oh fuck! Really?
or Jack.
You go to me. You go to me.
Someone has.
You know what?
I didn't know I was.
I'll
on
go ahead and
deck.
say I'll field this one.
I didn't know I
You know,
was on
in
deck.
honor of where we're at, in honor to you guys, John and Meg, for having us here, which is awesome.
Oh, I couldn't.
You so just don't think like I do. I challenge everybody to try a beer you never would have before, or just try something completely random in the beer community. I'm sure you guys can, Meg, John, be on board with that thought process. That's something I try to do every now and then because I've yet to really diversify the beers I drink. I find I'm still in this one kind of corner, and I haven't developed. I know what's huge out here is IPAs, and I'm trying so hard to get on board. But I challenge everybody who's listening to try a different. If you're a beer drinker, try a different beer. If you're a root beer drinker, try a different root beer.
Sarsaparilla.
And if you're in the area, try a Golden Road.
For sure.
Subtle. So
For
subtle.
sure. I'm gonna go ahead and
Thanks, guys.
exactly.
You need the robot voice to cue in like the promo, and then we'll cut back. Hey, try it. Go on down to Golden Road Brewery. You can get
Enter your name here.
So as we wrap up, John, Meg, I'd like to ask you guys if you have any thoughts, advice that you'd like to give for the people that are out there that share your passion, the nerds that are out there, maybe even the people that take it slightly further and are brewing beer in their own garage, and have maybe dreams, maybe aspirations, maybe they're just super passionate about the actual art form. What would you say to them, and what advice might you give them if they were to try and get their product out there?
Well, I think that the one thing that everyone on this table has had in common is that, there was a passion, and there was someone who helped kind of cultivate and shape that passion. And I think I've had like hundreds of mentors in my life, and that's something that I hold very dear is having people that inspire me to always be better and improving my skill set. And so I would say just kind of look around and try to, make a list of 10 people you admire, and then go try and talk to them and become. That will kind of house your ability to do what you love and love what you do, and house that passion. So.
I think it doesn't have to do with beer. It doesn't have to do with anything. But if you're passionate about something, fuck everything else. Just go take care of it and make that a priority in your life. If it's, your career, if it's, your hobby, if it's your family, if it's someone special in your life, just fuck it, man. If that's your passion, go for it and fuck everything else.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 28 of Nerdtastic in 3D. Thank you so much for joining us. And John and Meg, thank you so much for having us here on the show.
Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for drinking beer with us.
Definitely.
Bye.
See ya.
Nerdtastic.